Hey everyone, my name is Eddie Wang and welcome to another Mortal Kombat X video. This is a Mortal Kombat 11 build-up series, and today I'm going to pick one of my main characters for Mortal Kombat X, which was Hat Trick Kung Lao. I played Kung Lao for most of my time during the Mortal Kombat X. It wasn't a character, it really wasn't not the character that I picked up at the beginning of the game. I started the game playing Hellfire Scorpion and Ninjutsu, and then when Hat Trick finally got some buffs, I played Hat Trick for the entire game while still playing Ninjutsu and dropped off Hellfire on the process. But Hat Trick wasn't always a character that it was that good. Hat Trick started a terrible journey. It was terrible at the start. His traps were terrible, his moves were terrible, the recovery of the hat traps were terrible. It was really bad. So since it was a variation that no one really used it, when they buffed the traps, the recovery on traps, I took my spin on it, and it seems that NetherRealm really did enjoy the research that we did with this character, because in the end of the game, in the game life cycle, he became like a solid mid-tier, really balanced character, not really strong, stupid strong, with simple game plan, really complicated one, but still like a potential good character that can take you like really forward in some matchups while not being 100% effective, but still doing like a really good job. So I'm going to break down the three phases of Hat Trick Kung Lao, which it was the one that the first one is when he was terrible, the second one is when I started to play it, and the third and the last phase is when he finally got the final buffs in the end of the game life cycle, where he became the actual version that you guys are seeing right now. So let's start with the beginning. At the beginning, Hat Trick traps were like really slow at placing it and recovering. It was really bad. The variation had nothing going for it. It was impossible to play, and it was trash. It was really trash. I can't remember much about of the rest of the stuff, but the variation was unusable. But then when after like the second patch, after the first patch or the second patch, they finally buffed the variation and gave him like a better startup and better recovery on hat trap and callback, and callback became like -7, and the character became like really good, but not only because of the variation specific tools, but because he had this jump used to have like a huge hitbox. You could literally hit people from a mile away, almost from here. You could jump from here and hit people. It was almost impossible to one-tire. This used to make all variations of Kung Lao like really strong. It doesn't matter if it was Basal, Tempest or Hat Trick. The jump attack of this character, it used to be stupid good, really good, that you could do this on distance and still hit people, something that really changed a lot in when it was nerfed. It became quite hard to hit people with this unless they were like on an immovable position, because the hitbox of the hat became changed, and it was changed and it became like quite bad. It's not saying that the way it was great, but it's just that this move, the teleport should track more, and it's something that it wasn't changed for the character. So many of the teleport moves became like really bad. Became really bad. But Kung Lao as a Hat Trick character, after when he got the first buffs, he became great. To some extent, the jump attack was great. He had armor on EX spin, which was really good, and like a really complementary thing. He could like anti-air anyone with this. and it doesn't really matter how people jump it, and it didn't really matter as much as him being at -7 on callbacks, because people had to respect the EX spin right after, so you literally got free pressure in most cases, and he used it to be great, like really great. He could also cancel the callback with hat trap before the hat response on his head. He was capable of doing this, which was like a really good way to defeat people trying to poke out of the returning hat, since people can duck and poke out just to make the whiff, since he really cannot control how Hatarang travels, unfortunately. So you have to like it's going to be always mid. The second hit is a high actually, so if this move could be controllable, it would be possible to make it hit like below, because as we know, Kung Lao, when he places a hat, he can control it, as you guys can see. But it's still a mid. You can still duck this, you can still block this standing or crouching, it doesn't really matter, but it would be great because you will be able to freeze people to death on the returning part of the Hatarang. But the character became quite good and he had some really solid damage, but some of his variation specific tools like callback 8, it was to be terrible. It used it to whiff on a lot of characters, including Cassie Cage. I have a video explaining how terrible this character was. And callback alone, it was really bad. And the hate it wasn't like this. The low callback also was terrible. It didn't really matter in which position the hat was. If the character was crouching or standing, the character crouching, the juggle hate changes to even lower and becomes terrible. But after this phase, it didn't really matter as much because the character really had good armor to compensate for the fact, so you could really use most of the things to compensate from the lack of Haig on the hat traps. But then he got nerfed. The first nerf this character got, it's something that it was a general fix in the game. It came from the breakers. I'm just going to set AI to break on. So when the characters break, now both characters stamina depletes and it recovers at the same time. This really did hurt a lot Hat Trick, like really a lot. That's because when this happened, this character is to be a character that he gets to win the neutral by making you break, and once you break, you can no longer escape him. So now he is able to apply pressure on you while your stamina is rising up, and he can do pretty much anything, and he gets an edge. The matchup becomes like at his favor until you get your stamina back and your meter back, and then the game start to shift again. But when they changed the breaker mechanic for stealing both character stamina, Hat Trick lost a lot from this because he lost the comeback potential, he lost the offense potential, and he became like quite trash actually. It was really bad. His buttons were terrible, and to make it worse, on top of this, he didn't really receive any buffs at all. So I complained for this for months. I talked about how terrible this character was. I made videos about it and explained a lot of things. And by the end of the game life cycle, Kung Lao finally received the callback buffs. Finally, he received the callback buffs and made his variation specific tools became like really good, and he was now able to do this, something that it wasn't really possible to do before. and he used to get like some really good combos from it. I'm just exploiting the damage. Yeah, really a lot of damage. So sorry, a little bit of, I got some dust. I'm allergic to it. So when he finally got the buffs, his variation specific tools became like really good, and he became like a decent character all over again. But in return, he also received some nerfs. The first one was the jump float. They increased the speed while the character falls, and he lost a lot of good anti-airs on the process. The armor on EX spin was taken away, something that many people disagreed, myself included, and this also hurt him a lot, and now he is even weaker against air attacks, and his above trap still remained useless because the hat from this position has really no use at all, especially in neutral. And I'm still of the opinion that the hat should be spawned at this position at best, if not at this position, but at this position at best, where it could actually be usable and give him some space control. The hat should also be spawned away, like at this position, and it would be great as well to performing some frame traps on top of him placing the hat away, as you guys can see, or placing away but low, same way he does, like in front and low and in front on that position. So this will make like his variation specific tools even greater. So this is the first thing that NetherRealm kinda missed in the character. Don't really know why, but they kinda missed a lot of opportunity with this from the variation. And yeah, and there is more. As we know, they also buffing some of these normals. His back one, it used to be 11 frames, 11 frame mid. It became a 7 frame high. It was a really good buff because it gave Kung Lao like the fastest punishing string in the game. Outside of Raiden, of course, Raiden is the number one because he has a 6 frame, but everyone else has a 7 frame normal that it's a high that starts a combo. Scorpion has a 7 frame mid with this turn in 3, but Kung Lao now has a 7 frame normal that goes into a string. And even if the opponents are blocking and focusing too much on trying to prevent when you're going to use a hat trap, you can just do this, and this is safe, is -3, so it became like a pressure tool. And this one was also buffed to -3 or -7 if not mistaken, all safe, and it was unusable before, but they made those two saves, and by buffing the back one string into a 7 frame high, it finally gave him the ability to do a lot of combos that he couldn't do before, like this. The juggle height of Kombat gave him like letterless damage on some of these combos. Before we used to do it with this. But the juggle height used to be like really low, so this used to be like a really consistent combo. But since now he gets to do it letterless, it's just much more difficult. But the thing is that Kung Lao really got buffed, especially with variation specific tools. He became able to do combos that he wasn't able to do it before, especially from the dive kick, which complemented the lack of the DX spin armor on the ground. But he became like really weak against anti-air because while this is good, a lot of attacks in the air have like some weird angles and usually hit higher, or they hit first before and not in the jab line actually, so they can get to hit your head before your jab even touches them, and you might even face this fact that his spin is also trash. It doesn't really have like a really good hitbox, and it tends to whiff in most cases when it shouldn't whiff, such as this case. And it also works like a terrible anti-air. There are jump attacks that can beat your spin straightforward, something I believe Paulo should be able to look at in the next Mortal Kombat, because this spin is terrible. It's easily the worst spin Kung Lao ever had. Really bad, even if it's a 7-frame special move, but the hitbox is bad, is really bad. His walk speed isn't that great, and his backdash also is not really that good. The teleport is slow, and the follow-ups cannot be buffered to some sort. Some even have like some strange recovery, like this one. Thank God, I didn't even know how I managed to do that without failing. But the thing is, this move has like, as you guys can see, the timing becomes weird. I believe he's doing the height. So you have to do this. Like with a timing. Yep. And before the final patch, he couldn't teleport into EX throw and link for combos. This wasn't possible. So Hat Trick away traps were useless and only became really usable because he then became able to do combos like this, and because he finally got some teleport link buffs just to improve this variation. But since it was an universal thing, it buffed all variations of Kung Lao, give him like a 2 bars 40 damage in combo that comes from the teleport. But since it's a 2 bars meter, the only variation that really requires to use this is Kung Lao, because he's the only one that is able to play without the hat, so this is legit for him, while from the others you can just simply do this and do like a really good combo. But as you guys can see, the spin from this move is terrible, and the spin from this game is terrible, and Kung Lao tends to whiff a lot on his juggles, and sometimes you have to stick with some of the other things. His combo juggle potential, even meterless, has increased a lot. It's increased a lot. You can even do 30% with some execution. And as a final say, I would say that Hat Trick Kung Lao, by the end of the game life cycle, he became decent, and he could actually be better, but he became decent. So what was like the best phase of Hat Trick Kung Lao? I believe it was the final one, because the final one gives him more emphasis on how he should really be played, and not the things that we used to imagine before he get the buff. So the final patch finally gave him some identity and took away some things that could actually be better, but it's the final patch that really defines how Hat Trick is. So by the end of the life cycle, Hat Trick, yes, it was like a really good variation.